Welcome back to the Counselor HQ podcast. I'm Noelle. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found your way in. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back, truly. Today's episode is one that feels really close to my heart because we're talking about something a lot of counselors experience but don't always say out loud. Counseling can be lonely. And if you've ever felt that loneliness in your school, your office, your private practice, or even surrounded by people, I want you to know something right away. You're not broken, you're not doing it wrong, and you're definitely not alone. Let's talk about why this work can feel isolating, and more importantly, how it doesn't have to stay that way. So I told you I like to start every episode with a story, and I just want to start this episode by talking about the fact that I have worked in a few different counseling jobs that have felt really lonely, but for different reasons. My very first job straight out of grad school, I talked about this last week, was at an elementary school, little bitties, pre-K through second grade. I was the only counselor, and there had never been a counselor there before. So that work was really isolating because I didn't know what I was doing. And although I had a mentor, she wasn't in my building. And so I couldn't just bounce ideas off of her really whenever I wanted to. And she had never done the work either. So it was very much kind of just flying solo and flying by the seat of my pants. I did make a lot of friends there, but I was the only counselor. So again, nobody else knew what I was struggling with every day. And now I'm in a position where I see clients virtually from home. So I literally don't talk to anyone but my clients and my dogs all day long. I don't have anyone to bounce anything off of. Did I completely mess that up? How can I better help this person? It is definitely an adjustment because at my last job, I was a middle school counselor in an entire department, which was great. And we collaborated and we, debriefed with each other, and it was fantastic. But even that felt isolating at times because even though there was a big group of us, it felt like nobody else in the building really understood what we did. So that in itself can feel isolating, even if you do have people around, but there are other people that don't really get what you do and what you're all about. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. So we are surrounded by people all day, whether it's associates or clients, but we can still feel deeply alone. School counselors are often the only mental health professionals in the building, unless they have a department. Private practitioners spend hours in sessions holding space and then they go home, or like me, go downstairs. Graduate students are trying to prove themselves while quietly questioning everything. We hold confidential stories. We absorb emotions that aren't ours. We make hard decisions quietly and ethically without applause, without feedback, without anyone really seeing the full picture. And often we can't just turn to the person next door and say, hey, that session really wrecked me today. So instead we keep going. We smile, we support others, we tell ourselves this is just part of the job. But loneliness doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Doing deeply relational work in systems that don't always prioritize connection for you. So why don't counselors reach out? One of the most ironic parts of this profession is that we're really good at encouraging connection and really bad at asking for it for ourselves. Some reasons we hesitate to reach out is we don't want to burden anybody else. We worry that we should have it all together. We're very used to being the strong one. Sometimes we don't even know who to reach out to. There's also this quiet professional isolation that happens when you're the expert, right? People assume you're fine, or they assume you don't need support the same way that they do. And over time, this isolation can turn into burnout. It can turn into emotional fatigue, self-doubt, that creeping sensation of disconnection from the work that you once loved. Not because you don't care, but because you've been carrying too much alone. So I want to pause here and gently reframe something. Loneliness in counseling is not a personal failure. It's a structural issue. It's a systems issue. It's a culture issue. Most counseling environments were built to serve others, not necessarily to support the counselors within them. So if you've ever thought, why does this feel so hard? Or why do I feel disconnected even though I love this work? Or why do I feel unseen? The answer isn't that you're doing something wrong. The answer is that this work requires community, and too often it doesn't automatically provide it. So what does that connection look like? It can look like a bunch of different things. It doesn't have to mean a big professional network. It doesn't have to be a perfectly curated group chat of, smarty pants therapists. You don't have to suddenly become an extrovert to go out and seek that community. Sometimes that connection looks like one counselor friend who really gets it, or a space where you don't have to explain the basics of what you do, or a community where you can listen quietly before you speak and feel inspired and motivated by others. Or sometimes it's just knowing that you can reach out if you needed to. It can be virtual, it can be small, it can be imperfect. The goal isn't more noise, it's that sense of belonging. And belonging happens when you feel understood, you feel safe being honest, and you feel reminded that your experiences make sense. So this is actually one of the biggest reasons that I created Counselor HQ. I kept hearing the same things from counselors in different settings. I feel alone. I love this work, but it feels isolating. I wish there was a space just for us. I recently, a couple months ago, went to a counseling conference and I was talking with another counselor and he said, this is like our Thanksgiving. This is the only time we get together. And that really stuck with me. Counselor HQ, along with this podcast, isn't about having all of the answers. It's about creating a place where counselors don't have to carry everything by themselves. It's a space for real conversations, shared experiences, growth without pressure, and support without judgment. Because when counselors feel connected, they stay, they grow, and they remember why they started. So if you're listening to this and realize, yeah, I've been feeling pretty lonely lately, I want to offer a small, gentle invitation. You don't have to fix it all at once. Start with one conversation, or one community, or one step toward connection. And if Counselor HQ and this podcast can be part of that for you, whether, like I said, it's through the podcast, the community, or future courses and webinars, then I would be honored. But you deserve the support. So however you can find that, I want you to find it. Counseling can be lonely. That part is real. But it doesn't have to be permanent. You are not meant to do this work in isolation. And you don't have to prove your strength by doing it alone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing the work you choose to do every day. And thank you for choosing connection, even just by pressing play today. Next week, we're going to be talking about burnout, compassion fatigue, and that myth of, oh, I'm fine. Which a lot of us, especially women, we say that all the time. So I will look forward to talking to you then. In the meantime, take care of you.